James, and you're in Arizona, is that right?
Yes, sir.
Okay, super cool, super cool. And do you have a podcast out there somewhere?
I do. It's called the Raptured Millennial Podcast.
Okay.
Available pretty much everywhere you can find them.
Okay, that's cool. And so what do you deal with on your podcast? That's a bit of a title there.
As a millennial, I'm 22. Me and soon to be one of my good friends, we actually, it's a Christian-based podcast. We kind of go through the Bible and discuss different topics. Like I just finished a series talking about how religion sucks and how I don't like the term religion and how I believe a faith-based thing is more important. And so it's kind of just a millennial's opinion on the Bible. I guess my slogan is a young mind's perspective on the oldest book around.
Yeah, it's always nice to bring something fresh to something traditional, I think.
Exactly. My thoughts are exactly.
Yeah, so, I mean, how is it being received? How are people taking the information that you're putting out there?
I mean, we're relatively new, so we've only got about 4 or 5 episodes. Actually, we only have 4 episodes up. I think we're seeing about 25, about 10 to 15 listens per episode. So not too bad, but not, obviously would love to see more. But again, we're building it up, so we're going to take what we can get for the time being.
Yeah, absolutely. And I go with the philosophy that one is better than none, right? So
exactly.
If you can connect with one person and you can make a difference in their life, then, the dominoes fall one by one, right? So
100%.
So we just make that connection with a person out there, and we help them get their life organized and sorted and going in the right direction. And one by one, we make the little corrections, and over time, it builds up.
Yeah, I think, in my opinion, if I can say, if I can change one person's life, then it's a success. I'm not trying to change the world. I'm not trying to, be the PewDiePie of podcasts, 50 million people listening, but, it would be nice. But, it's all about that one person who, you would never think would listen, and then they end up listening, and their life has changed forever because of something you said, because it resonated with them. And I think that's the coolest thing is about the podcasting platform, is we just put stuff on the internet, and anybody and everybody can listen and kind of just, and maybe they receive what, the intention is, and if not, at least, they gave you a try, and that's what I love about the community.
Oh yeah, it's something new for a lot of people, and if we take the time and effort to build up some creative content and put in some input and get the information out, then there will be differences that happen over time. It won't be instantly, but people can pick things up at any point in time. So maybe you create something today, and maybe people pick it up in a year or something like that. Or
exactly.
Yeah, or maybe you even, circle back to it, which is what I've done with a lot of my content, is I circle back and I listen a couple of years down the line, and I'm like, I've kind of moved on from that point.
Yeah, I know. I've actually run 2 other podcasts into the ground. I had originally done my first ever podcast. I was doing it with my grandma, and it was something that we were just kind of going through whatever was in the news for the week. We would go through a couple articles in the news and just talk about it. Get my perspective, get her perspective, and we'd go back and forth on it. But unfortunately, she passed away, and I kind of got really disinterested and just kind of I didn't feel the need to do it, and so I got really upset and just kind of neglected it and ran that into the ground.
But you still have the recordings, right? So it's still out there.
Absolutely, yeah, absolutely. I would never lose those.
Yeah. So I mean, that's what it's about, right? Sadly, your grandmother was gone, but her voices and her ideas can live on because you've captured them.
Exactly.
That's pretty amazing. Imagine everybody did that, right? Imagine that, all the young people connected with their grandparents in that way and discussed topics, shared information, learned something, had debates and discussions, looked at how society and culture has changed or maybe not changed over periods of time. I mean, that's a pretty cool thing to do.
Yeah, and I just throwing it out there, I know a lot of young people don't like hanging out with their grandparents, but you got to get it in before it's too late. Stop, put the phone down, pay attention to what they have to say, because they've been around for some years, and just enjoy the time you've got with your loved ones, because 2018 has taken a lot of people. 2018's coming with a vengeance. So.
Oh yeah, and we don't live forever, right? I mean, we're only here
Absolutely.
for a short period of time, so we have to hold on to the moments that we have. And personally, I don't think that there really are second chances. I think that every moment that we have is unique and special, and we have to we have to hold on to those moments as much as we can. So you're a new father, is that right?
Yep, just 4 months. 4 months old she is, yeah.
Okay, wow. And what's that experience been like for you?
It's been a little bit surreal, It's kind of, I don't know if it's fully hit me yet, because I'm looking at this little person that's the most adorable person in the entire world. That I could never imagine somebody being more beautiful than her goofy face and her goofy smile and the way she sticks her tongue out and just makes me laugh 24/7. I could never imagine that I had a part in creating this person. Now it's weird, because now I've been responsible for me for 22 years. Now I'm responsible for me, for my fiance, and for my daughter. And so it's a bit of a unique situation, because it's something I've never had to do before. I'm not used to it. I've not been around a lot of babies in my life. So having this person dependent on me is it's scary, but it's awesome at the same time.
Oh, absolutely. It's part of the learning curve, right? I think the moment that you become responsible for another life, you have to get to the next level, right?
Yeah, I mean, personally, I'm glad I had her young. We had her young because I want to be that young father who can run around with her, who can do stuff, who can play with her, and all her friends want to come over to our house because we're the young, cool parents. We're the fun people. We're the escape house. We're the house that everybody goes to escape the BS of their family and kind of just enjoy their time. I want to be that house, and so I'm kind of happy that we had her young, because we can have that opportunity to kind of relate closer to her as opposed to being more distant.
Yeah, it does work like that. People who want to have children when they're older, they don't tend to realize that the distance in age between the parents and the child does make a difference in your relationship. And what that means is, when you're older, you have to work harder. You have to work harder to bridge that gap, because if you are having a child, say, at the age of 32 as opposed to 22, then there's an extra 10 years difference there, and you do have to bridge that gap, because in many ways the mind becomes less flexible as you get older, and it's sometimes harder. And children also relate differently to parents of different ages. Children tend to have a stronger relationship, just tend to, it's not always like this, but they tend to have a stronger relationship with people closer to their age.
Oh, 100%, I agree with that, yeah.
Yeah, and so if the parents are younger, that bond can often be a lot stronger. I know some older parents, and the experience of the children is that the parents don't understand a lot of the experiences that the children are having, because there's just so much difference in that age gap and in that experience, and with the development of society and technologies and changes in the world and things moving quickly, you can get left behind in what is happening. And
true.
And let me give you a little example of that. We have in our kitchen, we have one of the Google Home Mini devices. The ones that you say, you don't type into your computer, you say something and it searches the voice.
I have an Alexa device in my house.
Yeah, okay. So 2 days after I learned how to use it, my youngest daughter, who is 3, learned how to use it, right? 2 days after it. So, my youngest daughter will walk into the kitchen and she'll say, hey, play, I don't know, Mamma Mia by ABBA, or, something like some song that she wants to hear, right? And, it will play. And I was thinking, wow, all those great differences between generations. And then I realized, oh my God, the 40 years between me and her has been distilled into 48 hours. because what I learned to do 48 hours ago, she can do now, and that just kind of blew my mind. Right?
Yeah, it's crazy, how that age difference, they, kids today are picking things up, that I could have only imagined.
Mm-hmm.
I remember when I was 3, I was picking, I was eating dirt, and when my little cousin's 3, she knows how to unlock the iPad and put her favorite TV show on.
Yeah, like my daughter came to me with their little tablet, and she said, "Can you turn on the internet for me?" I'm like, whoa, whoa! She's worked out the internet is off, right? She needs it turned on.
That's fun.
That's just crazy. Or I was sitting with my son at breakfast this morning, and we were talking about something related to money, and I told him, I'm paying like €500 a month for this, and he's like, so you're paying $6,000 a year. Yeah. And like my son's 8, and I'm like, you just did that calculation like that? And he's like, oh yeah. I'm like, whoa.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
It's something else, because there's so much, and that's why I can't wait for her to get a little bit older, because there's going to be so much that she can teach me, and then I can't wait to be able to teach her some stuff. I can't wait to embarrass her. Where it's like I pull out the VHS tape, and she's like, "Dad, what's a VHS tape?" I was like, "Okay, sit down. We got back when I was a kid, if you wanted to watch Titanic, the whole movie, you had to put in 2 different tapes. You had half the tape on one video and half the tape on the other. You couldn't just type it in on YouTube and pay $2.99 and watch it. You had to buy it. You had to buy the set. You had to put this VHS tape in, and when that was up, if you wanted to watch the rest right away, you had to take that out quickly so you didn't miss anything, and put it right back in. And it's going to be so interesting. These next 18, 20 plus years is going to be real fun and interesting.
Yeah, well, it's wild with the technology. I mean, I was talking with my partner yesterday, and my partner is from Slovakia, and she was telling me, and this is kind of relevant, I think, to everybody. She was telling me that her part of her childhood was ruined because there was the film Grease was on television, right? And it was only shown once. Okay, and when she was growing up, there was no access to videos and video recorders and anything. It was like the post-communist country, and everything was, really limited, right? So this film, and it was only shown once because it was considered too westernized to be shown again, right? And it was shown once, and her parents had to go somewhere, and she had to travel with her parents. And
she missed it.
And she missed it. And she said everybody was talking about this thing for years afterwards. And and this was, the time, no video recorders, no internet, no technology. If you missed it, you missed it.
You missed it.
Right.
Yeah.
It's not like you could download another version or pick it up later, or
record it. Yeah.
Even just record
Put it on the DVR.
Yeah, or even borrow it from somebody else, right? You can even do that because nobody had it.
Send me a link.
Links didn't even exist. Oh my God. And so, I try to explain to my son, like, because I got this folder of films on my computer that we watch, and my son was like, "Oh, so which films did you watch when you were my age?" I was like, "I didn't really watch any films, mate, because there was no real access to anything like that. I was like, I could rent a DVD. No DVDs. I could rent a video cassette like once a month, right?
Right.
And that was it. You wait till something comes on TV, and maybe you had to wait a year for something to come if you missed it at the cinema, right? So this is the way in which technology is connecting to people, and people are connecting to it, is the dynamic is changing so fast that as parents we have to be aware of it, right? We have to be aware of it and keep up to date with things so that we know what's going on, because it's going to get more crazy, I think.
Right.
In the future, especially with things like voice recognition, right? Like I just talked a little bit earlier. So the people are not going to take their phones out of their pockets. They're just going to speak, right? And they'll get the data back, and who knows where that will go beyond that point, right? You've got intelligent homes, intelligent lighting systems. Like I got this friend who's set up his house, and all the lights are connected to his Google Home system, right? And he's just like, turn on the lights, and
the lights turn on.
the lights turn on, right? And if that isn't
I remember, clap on, clap off used to be the thing.
Yeah.
And now you just gotta say something.
Yeah. It's wild. So so the first 4 months have been a bit of a cool ride for you. You've been enjoying the first 4 months with your daughter, yeah?
Yes, especially as soon as she learned how to sleep through the night. That's that's awesome. Once she learns how to sleep, waking up at 2 a.m. to change a diaper to feed her, it was fun, but it got old real quick not being able to sleep,
Oh, absolutely.
But I look forward to in a couple of years doing it again, having another kid. And just kind of going through the motions again and doing it all, because I think, well, a lot of people think that being a parent is like the worst thing that could happen to somebody. I honestly think it's the greatest thing that happened to me, because it made me more responsible, because I can't just go buy this thing that I really, really, really want, because I gotta buy formula, I gotta buy diapers, I gotta buy this, I gotta buy that. It made me more responsible as a person, personally, and then, it made me realize what was really important and then what really isn't. And I think that's the coolest thing.
Yeah, you're putting somebody else before yourself, right? That's what you're doing, and that's really important. If you're not thinking about what you're going to buy for yourself. Like I've got 3 kids, so it's like I'm not thinking about, I'm going to buy a T-shirt for myself. I'm always like, have the kids got clothes, right? Do the kids need anything? It's like, you clothe the kids first, right? I make sure all the kids have got like sneakers or trainers that are okay for them before I even look at anything that I've got, right?
And I think that's what keeps me up at night, is because I sit here and I'm like, how in the world am I going to do this? Like, that keeps me up at night, because I get stress. I get so much stress and so much, anxiety over, am I gonna be good enough? Like, am I gonna do this okay? Like, am I gonna get this done? Am I gonna afford all this? And am I gonna have to go hungry so she doesn't go hungry? Think about all these sacrifices that that I've had to make, I'm gonna have to make, and it scares me, but again, like you said, it's going along for the ride, and it was a decision that was made, and it's a thing that happened, and now we gotta stick to it.
Oh, absolutely. And I think personally that the greatness begins with asking the question that you asked: am I going to be good enough? Because if you don't ask yourself that question, you can't really measure where you are. So if you begin by asking yourself, am I going to be good enough? Then you start the process of self-assessment. You look at what you do, you look at what people around you do, you look at where you are compared to where you want to be. You go to other people for advice and support and help. And if you can't, find them, closely within your local environment, you can get on the net and look for people there. And so if you want to be, and not just even good, if you want to be great at something, it begins with asking the question of, like, where am I now and what do I need to do to be ready for the next step? And it sort of might be a sort of life learning process along the way. I don't think that any parent is ever really fully ready. You're thrown in the deep end, and you have to learn to swim, and you do it through the whole process of learning, of making mistakes, of realizing this is good and this is bad. I know that between my 3 children, my parenting developed. I was maybe overcautious with the first child, because it's the first child and you want to get everything right. And when you try to get everything right, you tend to aim for perfectionism, and that doesn't work because nothing is perfect.
Right.
So I think a lot of parents experience that, where they're maybe overprotective of the first child. The second child gets a little bit more space, and by the time the third child comes along, you're not racing towards the edge of the bed as the baby gets closer to the edge. You're just like, she'll probably stop. It'll be okay.
Right.
But
then if they don't, you've got the hospital on speed dial.
Well, or no, but it's even another level of that. It's like you kind of know that if they fall off, they'll cry for a minute, but they'll be okay, right? Whereas before, it's like, oh my god, what? Like you're with the first child, you're like, you've got all those numbers in your phone ready, right? Right.
Yeah, I think the hardest part for me so far is, my future in-laws told me, if she cries, let her cry for a few minutes. See if she's just trying to get attention, and then if she keeps crying for a few minutes, pay attention to her. Get her some food, change her, do this, do that, and see if she's just being a brat or if she really needs something from you.
Oh yeah, well, there's a lot of truth in that. At the same time as that, there's also a lot of truth in, you want to be as close to your kids as possible. So you don't want them to, you want to be with them, I think, when they're crying, but you don't want to be responding to their every single need at that moment, because you want them to know that you're there for them, and you want to reinforce that, but you don't want to become a slave to the running around and getting them absolutely everything that they need, because you don't want them to and in a kind of a bigger context of things, you don't want to do things for them that they need to learn to do for themselves, because that just slows down the whole process.
Right.
So the balance is difficult. In my experience, every person is different. Every family is different. What works perfectly for you, if I try it, it might not work for me. So it's really hard to get the right kind of advice from other people, because other people will tell you what worked for them, and that's great, and all you can do is try it, and if it works, it works, and if it doesn't, it doesn't, and then you move on to doing whatever you need to do next. It's a slow, difficult learning process where mistakes are inevitable, but that's how we grow. I think that's how we grow.
Yeah, and I think that's it's important, because we all start we start somewhere, and where I've seen myself grow personally as a father, as a person, and over the last few months, as I was stressed, I was scared to hold my daughter, because I was scared I was going to drop her, to now I'm just like grabbing her with one arm, picking her up and slinging her along, like, let's go.
Oh yeah, absolutely. That's and it becomes more free, because as you begin to get more comfortable with being with the child, there's more freedom there, and it becomes more enjoyable. And if you're not able to relax and take a step back, it's really difficult to enjoy everything. You want to be fully involved, but you want to be able to breathe, during the parenting as well.
Exactly.
Yeah, and you don't want to overparent as well. That's another issue for
But you
people.
don't want to underparent.
Yeah,
it's finding that balance.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And these questions just become more complex as the child grows up. It's said, okay, how do we introduce the child to these different topics? What language do we use around the child? Is the child going to spend time with certain groups of people? What hobbies and habits and interests should they have? Is it all right for them to read this or not, or watch this film or not? And it's just a constant series of decisions that have to be made to the best of the person's ability. And it's a great process. I mean, you mentioned earlier that a lot of people think that having children is negative. Yes, for some people they think it's the worst thing, and I think these people have got everything backwards, right? I think obviously their experience in the past has been negative, and they're projecting their own negative experience onto the future, thinking that the children are going to be negative for what's happening. But I think all it does is it kind of tests your mettle. Are you able to step up, right? Are you able to do whatever it is that you need to do? I mean, you can even consider it a gift from God, the ultimate challenge, right? The ultimate challenge, parenting. Yeah,
Right.
forget the assault course for the army. That's difficult, but the greater challenge is the parenting. Right? How are you going to behave towards your son or daughter? Are you going to make the same mistakes that your parents made with you? Are you going to step up to the next level? Are you going to be there for them all the time? How are you going to handle it when they fail at what they want to do? So many difficult questions. And the fact that you're a bit of a scholar of the Bible, I mean, that's going to stand you in great steading for all of those things, because there's so much practical advice that's available there, at the root of our sort of education in Western civilization, that's going to be really, really, really important in the future.
Right, and that's what I love about it, and that's what I love about my podcast is it's I'm not afraid to admit my mistakes and where I've been off, and I think that's a flaw with a lot of people who are preaching the Bible, is they're afraid to admit that they've messed up or talk about certain things, and I'm just like, I've messed up. I know I've messed up. I know I'm not perfect, but this is my advice on what this is saying, and this is how I'm living my life based off this, and this is how I think you should live your life. But if you feel different, that's fine. That's what I think is so great about things like that, is you can have different opinions, and that's what I love.
Yeah, it's the ability to share, it's the ability to connect, it's the ability to accept what works, it's the ability to reject things that we find negative for ourselves. It's the life skills, basically. It's the life skills, and
Exactly.
it's constant learning, and no matter how much we learn, and there's that contradiction of learning where when you learn more, you realize there is still so much more. Right, and everything just gets bigger. It's like you learn something about, or you study some element of the Bible, and you're into the characters and the topics and what happened, and that leads you on to something else, and you're like, oh my God, there's this you can write books on this paragraph, right? Because there's just so much there to share, and the podcast is the great opportunity to give what we know out to other people, and then to listen to other people's content and to pick up what we can from that. So
Precisely, and that's why I have an email dedicated to the podcast, and I invite people who think differently than what I think. I invite them to email me and to tell me what's your perspective, and maybe I could invite somebody on the podcast and we can debate the perspective. That's what I love that.
Oh yeah. It's I like the opportunity to understand differences, to explore ideas, and people don't need to be hypercritical of each other. There's always enough. There's always enough negativity in the world already. It's just taking that time to listen to somebody else's perspective. And I think when people are intelligent, what they can do is they can hold another person's perspective. They don't have to agree with it, but they can see it. They can hold it. It's like rotating an object like 180 degrees, right? You can see you can respect it. You don't have to. That's what I love about being able to agree to disagree. Is we can be friends at the end of the day. I don't have to agree with what you say, but I can understand your side of it, and I can see where you're coming from. Oh yeah, absolutely, and if we can all get to that point, it's a pretty cool point to get to, really, where we're not trying to throttle each other just because we see things in a different way, right? We can share because we care, and we can respect because we know that differences and diversity are part of what makes life beautiful. So that's pretty cool. Hey, put your podcast out there again. What's the name of the podcast?
It's Raptured Millennial, Raptured, Millennial, Millenial.
Okay.
The Raptured Millennial podcast. We're on Facebook, Instagram. Like I said, you can email us at rapturedmillennial@gmail.com. And we're available pretty much everywhere: iTunes, Spotify, Google, Pocket Casts, all the major streamers. We're there. Give us a listen. Feel free. Like I said, email us if you got any questions, or if you just want to say, hey, I know me and my buddy, we're actually going to go on two different subjects. I'm going off of My goodness, I completely blanked on what I've been talking about. I've been talking about judgment. I just started a series on judgment and how that plays out from the beginning, from Genesis judgment, from Old Testament judgment down to New Testament judgment, all the way to Revelation. And then my buddy is going to be doing a series on the historical relevance of the Bible and do an actual background of the Bible itself from a historical standpoint. So we got some really exciting stuff coming up.
Oh, that's pretty cool. And if you're part of a church out there, and you can share that with other people in the church, and they can build their knowledge that way. I mean, that's that's an excellent way to connect with people. It's a great topic to look at. I mean, judgment is. I mean, doesn't that just affect everybody, everything, everywhere? That's such an amazing topic to look at.
And it's the scariest topic, which is why it doesn't get touched enough, and which is why I'm going to spend a couple weeks on that particular subject, because I don't think it gets talked about enough.
Oh yeah, because we're all we all need to some level to make decisions, which requires some level of judgment. But we need to avoid being judgmental.
Judge not, lest ye be judged, my friend. That's what I've always been taught.
Oh yeah, absolutely, because what goes around swings back around, right?
10 times.
Right, absolutely. Hey man, it's been absolutely fantastic to have this chat with you. It's been really cool.
I've been having a great time, and I appreciate you having me on.
Oh wow! So thank you very much for responding to my reach out there for people that want to share interesting topics and ideas and experiences. If people out there want more information about what I do, there are 2 podcasts. There's the Business Coaching Masterclass and the Chatterbox. There's also a YouTube channel, the Academy of Language Therapy and Life Coaching. And as with everyone else in the podcasting world, just put the information into a search engine and you'll come up with links, and you can explore issues and topics, and if people want to connect, that's always a great thing to do. Super cool. So thanks again very much for the chat, mate, and I would love at some point to reconnect again a little bit down the line. It would be nice
to definitely do a couple months down the line. We can see where everything's at. We can kind of go back and see how a couple months has changed perspectives and whatnot, because obviously, as you know, with your 3 kids, and as I'm going to learn with mine, couple months can do a whole heck of a lot of a difference. Whole world of difference. Yeah, absolutely, and it's nice to appreciate and recognize those differences as well over time. So that's super cool. So thank you again. It's been an absolute pleasure. My pleasure. It's been my pleasure. I appreciate you having me on.
And what I'm going to do when we finish the call, what I'm going to do is I'm going to connect with you back through the chat system, and give me your email address, and I will pop I'll pop the recording to you through that, and you can do whatever you want with it on your side. Okay.
Cool. And then just let me know. I don't know which podcast or YouTube channel or wherever you're going to post this. Let me know. I'd love to kind of listen to it back in another perspective as well, and see the kind of reaction it gets from your audience.
Okay, that's cool. It's probably going to go out on the Chatterbox. I'm putting out a lot of content daily right now, and some stuff gets recycled round about, some stuff gets edited, some stuff gets left as it is. I think that it's just a constant process of experimentation to find out what format is the best to get information delivered to people in a way that they can consume it in the way that's best for them.